Hey, good morning, Melina. How's it
Yo,
going,
yo, good
buddy?
morning.
Day
It's
four at the
going.
U.S. Open.
I hate to break your heart, buddy, but
Is it day five?
get out of here.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Get out. Always just having camera issues on a regular. I have no idea why, but we're here at the U.S. Open. 64 players remain. Tons of juicy matchups that are going to be starting here in about 40 minutes. Live on the zone if you're here in the U.S. Matchroom Sport on YouTube as well. Let me bring in Joey. There it is, buddy. Now you're looking good. Now you're
What
looking
is
like
the?
$1 million.
All right. Yeah, at 6:30 a.m. on the West Coast here.
By
But
the way, we
hey,
appreciate your commitment this week, buddy.
hey, man,
You've been doing awesome.
this has been so much fun. To be honest with you, a lot of times I have to wake up for stuff I don't really want to wake up for. This has been fun, and your coverage out there has been great. I've been following along with everything. Um, a lot of fireworks yesterday. A lot of
Yeah,
stuff going on.
I think I'm gonna try to do better today. What happened to Joe?
Sorry about that.
I'll say what happened here. Okay, um,
We're good.
I'm gonna try to do a better job today. I don't know. I'm gonna try to just continue to post updates on matches that are going up on outside tables. Just try to keep people like involved in how the racks are going and stuff like that. So I'm gonna try like a little bit different approach on Windows Open. But Joe, there's so many matchups. Guys that were on the one loss side are now matching up with winners, and I mean, there's just it's gonna be a heavyweight fight all day long. We're gonna be down to 16 players by the end of the day, and let's jump on into them, man, if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to add it up? Okay. So the
Yeah.
16, it could
Or
have
did you want to talk
huge.
about yesterday first?
Well, hold on. Those 16 could have huge implications for Moscone Cup and just where players are in the pecking order. So yeah, I think it's going to be kind of interesting, and I'm excited to see at the end of the day who's left standing.
Well,
No
here we
doubt
go.
about
We're going to start up top. This is not in order of play, you guys. On the far right, you can see the time that they'll be playing at on the East Coast. But this is from the draw from the top down. So first up, Joey, we got FSR, defending champion, hottest guy on the planet. For the last 2 years, facing Mickey Kraus, the what is it?
Switzerland.
Switzerland, yeah,
Yeah.
Swedish player,
By the way, Mike,
Swiss player.
I interviewed Mickey for Pool Player Podcast, but the video got screwed up, so we have to do it again at some point. But I love him. Great young player, a lot of talent, and he's done very well to get to the final 64 here. But he's got a big test in FSR, defending champion.
Right.
Seems to be cruising right now. Maybe that little bit of a break that he had was just what he needed to put wind back in his sails and try to pick up where he left off last year. So I'm going with FSR in this one.
Well, I mean, who isn't gonna pick Francisco in this matchup? We all know his class. We all know his killer instinct. We've seen how he's been playing in this event from score lines, and I've been able to watch firsthand. It's going to be, I think, on a line standpoint, going to 10, Mickey probably needs three. Getting to seven, I think, would be a win for him. He's up against it when it comes to Francisco. We know how he gets the more the tournament progresses, and I mean he's just a monster, man.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. The second matchup is kind of interesting as well, and I might have to say this might be a pick 'em. Maciel's been playing great. We know what Wukong Lin can do. Um, it's really anybody's match as far as I can say. I think I'm gonna go with Maciel here.
I met Wukong Lin for the first time here. Kind of chatted with him a little bit on Messenger through Windows Open, and so I became even more of a fan of the guy. Plus, he's got an amazing cue from Zen. And anyway, I agree with you, Joey. From a line standpoint, I think it's a pick. Wukong Lin is a monster, but I think Martial has been like one of those fringe Europeans that are just knocking on the door, waiting to bust through. Um, Alex was the first person that I spoke with coming out here, but when I walked around the arena, I walked up on Martial and Babika when I first arrived at the venue, and I told Daniel, I said, "Listen, man, I think you're going to go deep. I think you got a really good chance, and he's going to be up against it. Even if he beats Wukong Lin, there's a good chance he's going to be facing Francisco. So he's got a very difficult road to be able to get there. But I think he's got the game that can get there. It'll be an upset if he does make it through the final 16, but I'm expecting him to beat Wukong Lin and then I'm expecting to have give me a couple games and I'll take the Polish player.
Yeah, I got FSR coming out of that top four to the 16,
Yeah,
but most people would probably.
right.
The next match is a really interesting one. Roland Garcia, I picked him in our show yesterday to advance, and he
You
did,
did.
which was kind of a surprise, I think, to some people. And John Mora in our fantasy draft, he was my first pick, and it was a little strategery there because only had a limited budget, and so I said, well, let me pick a really good, consistent, steady player that I know is going to be there, save a couple 100,000 because we were doing it GM style, and then load up with some big guns after the first round. And so
Right.
I took Mora. You guys all dogged me out for it, and then it was looking really bad when he loses early on, but he grinds it out the way John Mora does, and he comes back to get to the final 64. So I'm going to take John in this one. I know it seems as though from the score lines he's not playing his best, but like I said, he just finds a way to kind of bear down and get things done. So I'm going with John Mora here.
Well, there's a lot of players not playing their best right now, and it's not because of their lack of ability or talent. It's just the conditions are that difficult for them to play. A lot of top players are struggling in a great way, though. They all embrace it and they all love it and they all appreciate it, and they want it to be as difficult as it can be while still keeping the same values and principles of American pool. And yeah, I saw John play a little bit. He went hill with Kang Lee late last night. I think the actual last matchup that finished, or second to last match that finished last night. Um, Difficult out is Kang Lee. A lot of respect for the guy. Great tournament for him. John survived, but I don't think he survives this round, Joe. Roland is a different kind of opponent. We saw him beat, I think it was Fortunsky last night or yesterday afternoon to make it through to round of 64. He seems to be, you want to talk about consistency. Roland is
Yeah.
so I like him in this matchup, and it's not for the sake of my draft, although I will be looking to see how my horses are doing throughout the day. So right below, we got Robbie Capito versus a guy with opportunity here, Joe, in your player of your lifetime, Jeremy Sauce, as you like to say.
If you see him, you got to tell him how when I say his name and put you on tilt.
He,
I'd love to get that on video and see his reaction.
he was there last night practicing while Oscar was practicing, while John was playing Kang Lee at Hill. And you can tell he was really working hard and takes it serious. One of the few pros that were here, late last night. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about Robbie before when it comes to this matchup. I still scratch my head as to which guy is going to show up. I know the kind of game that I'm going to get from Jeremy. I think it's tough, man. I think Robbie should be a favorite, but not by much. Maybe
I
maybe
think Robbie's a
small
clear
money
favorite.
line. Yeah, I
I,
don't know.
I think Robbie's a clear favorite, but you have Jeremy who has a lot at stake here, has his chance to really put his stamp on, um, his potential for playing in the Moscone Cup. When
Right.
we had Jeremy on the show last fall, when we first started talking Moscone, we said, tell us some players that you might be looking at that maybe we're not thinking of, that maybe just outside of those players you've considered in the past. And Jeremy was the first name he brought up. I don't know if you remember that. The
Mm-mm.
first name he brought up was Jeremy. And then, he didn't have great results last fall, so he kind of faded out of the picture. But I tell you what, if he beats Capito here, he's back in the picture. We know Jeremy likes him. He's a good player. He's a grinder.
Easy, easy, easy. Listen,
What's that?
one win's not going to put you back in the picture,
I'm
son.
not saying one win, but
You
getting to
get
the final
down
32 of the U.S. Open.
you get down to 16, then we can have a conversation. Now, I think he's a part of that small group of players who's in consideration. But the guys who are serious contenders, I'm not sold that he's there yet. But you got opportunity to get there today.
Well, let's talk about this. If Jeremy, I believe these two matches, Jeremy can win these two matches. It's possible, right? I don't feel like the moment's going to be too big for him or these names are too big for him, right? They're all great players, but it's not like you're seeing an FSR in this group of four or this group of, four, or Jason Shaw or Shane Van Boning. Like, if he beats Capito and he plays Roland or Mora, I think those are winnable matches for him, but it's going to be super tough.
You know what? I just realized. So the last time we saw Jeremy play on a decent event, go on a what we thought was a good run and solidify place on the map was, I want to say, the World Championships against Robbie Capito on the TV table, and that was where he completely
Interesting.
outplayed him. Yeah, I just came into my mind right now. So they got a little bit of history. Give me the American. I'll still take a couple because I'm a little bit nitty. And in the next round, he's probably going to need a couple if he's facing Roland. But
Hey,
you got all the opportunity in the world here.
I got to stop you because you brought up something about the conditions and the tables,
Right.
and you said all the players love it. Have you heard one complaint about pocket size being too tight? I know these are professional players, and the argument is always like, we want tighter tables, we want tighter tables. But has there been any of kind of the contrarian view of these are just a little too tight?
Not one, not one. And I've talked to dozens of players since I've been out here, both on camera and off camera, and that's been one topic that I've been wanting to get a gauge and see, what their honest opinion is like, not what their public opinion is like. What where someone like an Emily, they may be nervous to put their opinion out there vocally. Every single one of them have embraced it, and I'm talking from a number one players to B players as well, relative on the pro scale. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got it. This is the next grouping of four here. We start off with Omar Al Shaheen against Misko Fortunski. Who you like in that one, Mike?
I saw Omar, and I know he beat Corey to get through here. Fortunsky for me is just a different kind of player. He's super consistent. He's got such a high gear, and we all know how dangerous Polish players can be when it comes to getting in this part of matchroom events. Give me Fortunsky. I don't think it's a pick. I think the guy's going to go in there as a favorite, and he should be a favorite, although he's coming from the one loss side. But yeah, I can't. I love Omar. He's a super good guy. He's easy to root for. I like his attitude. I like his style of play, but Misko is steady, man.
Well, I mean, if you look at Omar, we don't really know what we're getting right now because if this were 4 years ago, I'd like Omar's chances a lot. Right now, is his success so far in this U.S. Open kind of a a flash, or is he back right to the Omar that we saw the same
Right.
form that he had like 4 years ago? And if that's the case, this is going to be a really close match, and Omar has every right to win it. He's right in it. But I agree with you. I think Fortuski right now is the more consistent player. He's been turning up to all the events, and as you know, he's capable. Just like five Polish guys in an event, he's one of them that has a chance to get deep. So
Here's
go ahead.
here's what favors Omar, Joe, is his all around game, right? Banks the ball good, he moves good, his safety play is good, he's a great one pocket player, right? I talked with Federer yesterday, and he talked about the value of being able to outmove players because number one, it's the conditions, the break, so all those things, all that defensive and tactical battle and safety play just get weighted a lot more than it would be on a run out table.
Yeah.
So if you want to give an edge, that's where you'll give an edge to Omar.
Yeah. The next matchup is Carlo Biotto and Jean Van Larup. I got to go with Carlo here. Carlo, I think, is the class of this grouping. I think he's the favorite to at least win to the final 16, which could create a killer matchup with Frederick Gorst, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm going with Carlo. Any chance of an upset here, Mike?
Well, we like Carlo to get through up top through those four guys and make it through at a minimum to get through the final 16 matchup. Van Leer, up, no disrespect to him, a great Dutch player, and we all know the Dutch are playing real strong. They got a really strong team with Niels and Mark, and amongst a few others, Tim de Ruyter. But Carlo's a monster. Carlo's been here before. If you're a fan of Carlo Biotto and rooting for Team Philippines, listen, you can't ask for a better draw, at least to get through 16. Now, once you're in 16, it's a different ball game. All eyes are going to be on the guy at the bottom here, on that bottom left when it comes to Federer. He's the class of that bottom, and I think we favor him to at least get through to the final 16 matchup. But he's got to get by Billy first, and then up top you got a grudge match in Sanjin and Tyler Steyer. Sanjin sent Tyler to the one loss side. We were all high on that stock, Joe.
It's so crazy how this happens in these redraw tournaments, right? It seems like this happens more often than it doesn't, that you'll get two players that recently played each other in the stage one that all of a sudden in the last 64, the last 32 now have to play each other. And so,
Right.
sure enough, Tyler Steyer and Sanjin back at it, which Sanjin pretty much controlled that first match, won it by a huge score line. And so I'm really interested to see how Tyler's going to respond in this match. It's going to be on table two, so this one will be viewable for everybody out there. And I think both of these bottom two matches have implications for Moscone Cup for USA.
Well, here's the deal: is that I was with Tyler last night after he finished with Delgado, right? And I asked him, I said, "What happened with Sanjin?" Because I didn't get to watch a whole lot of it. I saw the end of it, but
Yeah,
it
I
was
want to
already
hear this.
lopsided by then. And he was like, "I played great." He's like, and every time I was at the table, whenever he would miss, he's like, I would be in a funky spot, but I can't take anything away from him. He played great, and but then he also followed that up with whenever because I was refreshing my screen, like, come on, draw, get the hell out of here, come on, I want to see. When I said Sanjin, he was smiling from ear to ear. He couldn't wait for it. He was excited for it.
Really?
He said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm probably going to be on the TV table." And I said, "Tyler, there's no way you're going to be on the TV table. You've already played like 3 times." And sure enough, he's on the TV table. I think that favors Tyler because he's already been playing there a few times, and every single pro here will tell you it's a different story out there.
Yeah.
So even though it was lopsided, I would not be surprised. I don't want to say if the scoreline flipped, but I'm going to be rooting for Tyler. And here's the thing, Joe. If it ends up being Federer and Tyler, you better watch out because there's some history too. And Tyler's gotten there against Federer in the past. He sent his ass home. I want to say it was last U.S. Open. So that's where all eyes are going to be at if Tyler can get past Sanjin.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting the psychological battle too, right? How is Sanjin going to feel coming into that match? He's got to feel great, right? Like I just destroyed him. Could he be overconfident? And at the same time, maybe in the back of Tyler's mind, if something goes wrong early in that match, is it like, oh, here we go again? I'm not getting any rolls type of thing. So
No, Tyler doesn't. He stays steady mentally now. He doesn't really get down like that, like other players will. That's something I got to give credit to him for. He's not. He's not like this.
I don't
No
know. I
matter
thought he was
no
a
matter
human
what,
being,
no matter
like
what, he's staying super steady.
I'm just saying, as a human being, when stuff starts happening twice, it gets pretty frustrating. And I could see him getting a little worked up about it internally, like, oh man, this is happening again. But Billy Thorpe, what do you think? Good tournament for him so far. I'm curious to see, is he gonna in in his mind, is he gonna say, "Hey, man, I've done enough here. I'm down 6-2 against Federer, and it's kind of pack it in," or is he gonna fight to the bitter end and try to grind it out against Federer, get a win here, and really make a huge impression in this U.S. Open?
Well, nobody can say Billy Thorpe lacks heart.
Yeah,
So you'll never hear anybody say that about the guy. He's got no quit in him. He came back from a big deficit in his first round matchup to win Hill Hill. And I know it wasn't to a name player, but still showed some moxie there. We know what Federer is. We know who he is. We know what he's capable of. Federer's going to go into this matchup as a heavy favorite, and Billy's going to have to dig as deep as he can possibly dig and find every ounce of skill plus heart to be able to fade what Federer's about to bring his way. Federer's got something to prove in his own right. He's trying to solidify a spot on Team Europe and to be an automatic pick, which is massive for him because that'll be a guaranteed of, I want to say, around 30,000. So big implications here in this bottom part of the bracket for the Americans and for the Europeans.
it just doesn't feel like Federer's playing his best. And I don't mean any disrespect to our buddy Nick DeLeon, but Nick had a chance to win that match. I believe from your account, he was up, 7-6, Mike, and getting out and missed the 7 ball. So it just appears like Federer's not quite clicking yet in this tournament, but that could change with any round. So be curious to see how he looks in this match.
Of course.
Moving on down, we have Albin Ocean against Ralph Souquet. Albin obviously is the favorite here. Ralph's putting in a good tournament to get to the last 64, but I think this is where it ends for him. I like Albin in this one.
The world's going to love Albin in this one, and the world's going to love Albin to get through the final 16, given those other 4 players. I like him against Ralph. He's going to be at least a 3-game favorite going to 10, and I'd probably lay it if I was going to be betting on Albin Ocean. Down below, we got Chris Reinhold against Darren Appleton. 2 guys that you are surprised to see them here, but both guys that are playing extremely well, Joe. You know,
Yeah.
Chris got a
Oh,
really
sorry.
good attitude. Darren has been taking down names left and right, or at least giving guys hell. He lost to Neil Spine yesterday. I think this is a great matchup for both of them. I don't know who I'm rooting for because I like both these guys.
I tell you what, if Chris wins this match and then he's able to beat Albin in the next match, that's huge for Chris. He's already beaten two Europeans coming into this. It's like an all European tournament. And if he advances past Darren, whether Ralph or Albin wins, it's another European. It's like somehow this draw just worked out that way for him. And so it's
Well,
set up nicely that if he continues to win, get to the final 16, on his resume, even though he hasn't played many events this year, he's knocking off European talent. So it's kind of interesting.
he's been beating the Moscone Cup team from 2009. You know, he beat Mika, he beat Thorsten, and then now he's got a chance to beat
Don't give me that. Don't
to
give me
beat
that
Darren.
because all you
So,
talk about is how it's amazing how Mika's still playing at such a high level,
well, I'm
and
just saying
he
though,
beats
and
him.
you can't.
So
It's true. No, Mika did play. Mika does play really well right now. I'm not going to take anything away from that. So,
yeah.
right below that. Oh, I'm sorry. So, who do you got coming through 16 up top? You got Albin versus who?
I'm going to take Chris to beat Darren. Darren's obviously coming back, getting back into playing, and he's having good results. I'm really happy to see him do well.
Yeah.
This is a tough one because your heart wants to root for Darren, but at the same time, I like Chris. I know Chris, and I know he's looking to make a statement as well. So I'm going with Chris in this one. But
Down below, we got
Albin,
no. You got
yeah,
Albin. Yeah,
yeah.
me as well. Imran Majid versus Alexa Pachel, and then you got Ko Pin Yi versus Phuong from Vietnam. Let's start with Imran and Alexa. Joe, who do you got?
Yeah, I mean, you and Pinozo kind of hit the nail on the head. You talked about just how consistent Imran is. Always seems to get down final 32, final 16. Alexa, I think, got beat early on in a bit of a surprise. I don't recall exactly who he played,
Kang
but
Lee. Kang Lee
yeah,
sent him to
Kang
the one
Lee.
loss side.
That was a little bit of a surprise there, but I'm going to go with Imran to win this one and make it at least to the final 64. And in the one below, uh, what can you say about Ko Pin Yi, one of the very best players on the planet, playing the Vietnamese player? I'm going to go with Ko to win this one and to make it to the final 16 from that grouping.
If you bet against Imran, you might be in trouble because he's that consistent of a player, but very much an afterthought in a lot of people's minds. Alexa is an upstart for sure, and he was down big to Baysar yesterday. He's really lucky to be in this position, to be honest with you. How he can fade Imran, they both play Euro tours. They know about each other. It's close. It's a pick. I don't know who I'm going to take. Either way, I take Kopinyi to make it through the final 16, Joe.
All right, moving on down. Sky Woodward against, what does Mike call him? The Dokian.
Yeah, the Dukian. Yeah, yeah. Or the can do,
The
something like
Can
that.
Do. Yeah, that's what he
Yeah,
calls him.
yeah, yeah,
That is a great name, actually.
yeah.
Uh, I like Sky in this one. Sky appears to be playing well. He's won his 3 matches. I'm going to take him to win at least one more here and make it through to the round of 32.
I like him to win more than one. I like him to win this one, and I like him against Naoki. I don't know who Naoki's opponent is, Joe. He's one of the few players who I could not tell you who that guy is out here in the crowd. I
Well,
have
the
no
guy can
idea.
play because the guy made it to the final 64 of the U.S. Open.
Shocking, Joe. Way to go out on a limb and put your neck out there. No,
He's at
without a
least
doubt,
a
he can play.
650 Fargo.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I mean anything short. Sky has got to win this one. There's no pressure on him in the sense that he's not vying for a Moscone Cup spot, but there's pride. He wants to win the U.S. Open. He seems to be playing pretty well, but it's not going to be easy against the Vietnamese player. But we both like him to get through.
Yeah, I like him to win that. I got Oi on the second one, and then I got Oi knocking off Sky in the round of 32. Sky's going to be pissed at me for that, but hey, that's what I got here.
Jonas Suto Camino versus Gangflot, Jason Shaw against Earl Strickland and Joe, the talk of the day. But let's start with Jonas versus Gangflot.
Yeah, I mean, Gangflot loses early on. He's come back through and made it to this point. He seems to be the hot hand right now. Been playing well, turning in good results. Jonas is a good player. I'm going to go with Gangflot here.
I think they're both right around the same spot. To be honest with you, I don't mean that in the sense of the bracket. Just as far as where their game is, I think Gangflot is showing a little better form as of late. But we saw Jonas kind of jump on the stage maybe a year ago, Joe, and he seems to be at a pretty steady pace. I don't think he's done yet, man. I think it's going to be a close fight back and forth. I think I'm with you though. I'll take the Norwegian this time, but I'm not too confident about it.
Yeah. Now let's talk about this last one because this one for me, this if you remember at the Moscone Cup press conference last year, the very first dart that was thrown was from Jason Shaw towards Earl. And we could have anticipated it, but that's
It
what it
was
was.
expected. It was
Yeah, it
deliberate.
was.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
but
intentional. Yeah.
so I'm excited to see this one. You know, there's going to be fireworks. You know, there's going to be talking to fans and getting people riled up. It's going to be exciting. Earl is playing well. He really is. He's an easy guy. If you're an old school guy, okay, and you've been watching pool for a while, you probably love Earl Strickland and pull for Earl Strickland and root for him. If you're someone like me who kind of caught Earl maybe a little more towards the tail end of his career and has seen his antics as of late, it's hard for me to root for Earl. But then watching him in this event, watching him pocket balls, it's just amazing. At his age, he's so deadly accurate ball pocketing. It's really impressive. And so he can get there in this match. Jason playing his top pool, Earl's probably in trouble. But Jason, I don't believe is playing his top pool right now, and I think Earl's got a chance to pull off the upset. It's going to be a fun one to watch.
This is the matchup everybody first saw as they're scrolling through their bracket last night when the draw came out. This was the one where you were like, "Holy shit! I can't believe it's Earl Strickland versus Jason Shaw." This is the one that you're going to be tuning in for. TV table number one. It's going to be on prime time. Everyone's going to be sweating it. It's going to be standing room only here at Harris. Um, Earl can still have flashes of greatness. I've seen it. We saw it against Ralph when he was coming back, right? We saw him beat players that really he shouldn't have beat last night. At least on paper, you would think he's an underdog. But Earl can still be great if Earl stays out of Earl's way.
He has been. It seems like his disposition in this event. You even mentioned it when you talked to him the other day. It's just a different Earl. He kind of seems more pleasant, more happy to be there, not really putting a lot of pressure on himself. And as Jenny Yan in the chat points out, the main thing hindering him is his break. And if he can find a way to dial in that break and pocket a ball or two on his break, he's going to be tough to beat.
Well, he's already had experience playing on that TV table, so that part's not going to rattle the guy at all. And yeah, if he doesn't have a mental breakdown, it's gonna be a close match. I think all the players have been struggling to some degree. I don't even think Jason's had a TV table match if I'm thinking about it, to be honest with you.
Really,
But
that's shocking because he's
yeah, because
always a favorite to be on the TV table.
even yesterday he played like Saucy on an outside table. So um,
Sase?
Saucy, yeah. I mean, listen, Jason should be the favorite. Jason's supposed to win. We know what Jason does when it's this time of year. But Earl might shock some people. And I tell you what, like if Earl beats Jason, the whole room is gonna come alive because then
Oh yeah.
it's let's go Earl. Earl's still a legend no matter what. Even though he can be tilted and he can be a bit of a basket case at times. We saw and this is the part I'm talking to certain players after the Earl match or during. They're still in awe at the fact that he still hits balls in the pocket the way that he does.
It's
Because
amazing.
he's still accurate. So, but if we're thinking about where our money's going, Joe, it's going
Yeah.
on Jason. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So out of this grouping, you like Jason to make it to the 32?
I mean, I think it's a trap game, Jason versus Gangflot, to be honest with you. But if Jason can survive too, it could set up a blockbuster between Jason and Sky. And we all know their history at the Moscone Cup and their history in tournament. So, yeah, it's going to be fun to watch.
We're getting the reminders from folks in the chat that it's 10 minutes to game time. So
Let's
let's
keep
move
on.
along.
Let's keep on cruising.
So Joshua Filler against Kim Loxonen, who's turning in a really good tournament. I had played Kim one time out in Phoenix when he came through town and knew what kind of player he was, but haven't seen him around hardly any. Not playing in many tournaments at all. Is turning in a good performance in this U.S. Open to make it to the last 64. But I got to go with Filler here as a heavy favorite. I think he's going to make it through. And interestingly enough, the other German player, young guy Moritz, who we had on the show, Newhausen, he's playing great. He faces Beasterbosch. That's going to be a tough matchup. But I think with the way Moritz is playing right now, I like Moritz winning that one, and to create a showdown with the two Germans in the round of 32. Thoughts?
We've seen Mark have form lately, and Mark's in an interesting position because of his Spanish Open performance. Mark can turn the European standings on its head still. He still has a chance, but you're facing one opponent that's very difficult and probably the hottest player right now in Moritz. And then if you win that, you get rewarded with playing more than likely the deadliest player on earth in Josh Filler.
Maybe
So
the toughest draw of this 64 is Beasterbosch.
but it's also the biggest opportunity for him if he can stand tall, And so table one, look, Moritz had a hard time playing against Jesse Engel. Now Jesse's a great player, but I think Mark is a better player. I think a lot of people would agree. But Moritz seems to be in a better headspace. But it's pressure time. It's time for expectations. It's time to perform. And this is a different animal now. You don't got any lifelines. There's no safety net. You got to beat Mark, and then that'll set up the matchup that we all hope to watch, which is Josh versus Moritz.
Yeah, moving on down, player that I think you picked in our show yesterday to maybe win this whole thing is Chang Yu Lung versus Jeffrey DeLuna. There was controversy yesterday. People in the chat are asking about it. You're at the event, Mike. What do you know about the situation that happened with DeLuna and Kwok?
So Mike and I went live yesterday after or like midday yesterday, and then we talked about it for a little bit. But basically, there was a call early on where you know Huang said it was a foul. Jeff said it wasn't. Then Huang said whatever, just play it as it is. He lost that match, but then you go on to lose 9-1. Jeff won lopsided, but it's no surprise that Jeff is involved in a controversy. We've seen this story time and time again. But I don't want to take anything away from him because you still beat a great player with a very heavy scoreline. Chang Yulong is a dangerous Taiwanese player, and I'm sure they both know each other very well. I think I think Jeff probably ought to be a little favorite, but not by much. I still like Chang Yulong in the upset, not because of I don't like Jeff, but I just think that
You
Chang
think that's
Yulong
an
is
upset?
playing great.
You really think
If
that's an upset?
if Chang Yulong beats Jeff DeLuna, yeah, I do, honestly, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't think he's a favorite, So down below we got Kazakis versus Koping Chung, and if you're a fan of the Greek player, you got to think, boy, how brutal is this? You got to face Koping Chung coming out of the one loss side, Joe.
Yeah, we knew there would be some tough matchups with the quality of players that kind of lost a match early on. And this is one of those, right? A name that I'm sure Kazakas did not want to see pop up with Lil Ko. I'm going to take Little Co in this one. It's tough though because Kazakis is certainly capable of winning this one.
Of course.
Uh, I think Little Co's a slight favorite here, and so I'm going to go with them. And in fact, I'm going all Taiwanese here in the bottom part of this to face off in the round of 32.
It's such a stacked area of the bracket to be in right here, with these 8 players. I wouldn't be surprised either way who came out on this bottom match, only because I heard Little Co shouldn't have even been there because he should have lost to Radislaw yesterday. I heard he got out of position at
Abika?
Hill. Yeah, Babika. So, Kazakis seems to be in a good headspace. We all know what his game is like when he's in form. He seems to just stand up when it's ready. Like in this time of the tournament, he seems to just do what he has to do to get wins. Koping Chung is a monster. I guess I would take Alex as an underdog winning this matchup. I'm not too confident, but it'll certainly be worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, you said he won a match that he maybe shouldn't have won. That's kind of the definition of all these guys at the top level of the game, right? They win all these matches that you're like, man, they shouldn't have won that match, and they find a way to get there. And a lot of times that's going to propel them late in the tournament where it's like, man, that guy should have been out in round 3.
Yeah.
Then he goes on to win a tournament. So it's an interesting storyline. Your boy, Max Lechner against Gutenberger. Matchup of 2 Austrians here.
It's pretty brutal. They're traveling together, and so they're going to be matching up. I got a lot of respect for Daniel's game. I think Daniel can beat some name players. They obviously know each other very well. They know each other's strengths. They know each other's weaknesses. But look, I'm a fan of Max.
No,
Not just because of the person that he is, but because of his game. More importantly, I think he's going to get by here. And yeah, I like him to get through, man. I do.
Yeah, what a tough draw here for Oscar, I think. A lot of players he would have probably rather played than Hasia. This is going to be a tough one for Oscar Dominguez. I think he's an underdog here. I'm going to go with Hasia.
He should be an underdog against the Taiwanese player. Probably like a two-game dog, if I would say so. But I saw a little bit of Hasia yesterday because he's one of my draft players, and I wasn't I wasn't so thrilled. It wasn't the same sharpness that I've seen before. Beat or lost to David in a close matchup, but he's a dangerous guy, man. He can hit an incredibly high gear. I think we're on a train to see Max versus Cecilia in that part of the bracket, though.
Yeah,
So
the next grouping here we have Miguel Silva and Jovan Bustamante, Arizona's own, making it through to the final 64. I don't know a whole lot about Silva. I do know about Jovan. I picked Jovan early on to have a good tournament. I'm going to go with Jovan here as kind of a homer pick. But I think it's going to be an all Filipino grouping at the bottom half of this bracket in the final 32 with the class of Levan Corteza and Jovan Bustamante.
it's supposed to be. You would think so anyway. Jesus, I said before he disappeared, I said I think this kid's got like world championship kind of ceiling, because he's smooth and with his style of play, I think it lends itself to be great on these conditions. Just the way that he hits the ball, but we haven't seen him play. He's kind of had, I don't want to say the softest of draws, but I'm surprised that he's here. It's Lee Van's match to win. Lee Van's supposed to win. Lee Van's supposed to be fighting for the final 16.
Yeah. Moving on down, it's about kickoff. So if some of you have to drop off to check out the matches, we get it. But we got Victor going against Taiwanese player Tuan, or I'm sorry, Vietnamese player Tuan, and Chang Jian Lin against Shane Van Boning. Talk about some fireworks there.
Yeah, it's
What
pretty
do you think it
brutal. If
might?
you're a fan of Shane, you got to be thinking, how can he draw into Chang Jung Lin? So it's
I
gonna.
was thinking if you're a fan of Chang, kind of brutal as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, either side of the coin, no matter how you look at it, and it's not going to get any easier for Shane to go after number six. Chang is a monster, but Shane's an even bigger monster on this stage, on the U.S. Open, with a chip on his shoulder, with a lot to prove. But even if he does survive, no matter who survives, each other, Victor coming out up top, that's something I'm going to really want to watch, man.
Oh, you like Victor out of that grouping?
No, well, I'm excited to see the matchup between Victor, who I think is going to
Oh,
win
I
up
see.
top, versus the winner of Chang and Shane, I should say.
Yeah, I'm going to
So,
take Shane to win these two matches and get down to the final 32 here. Janiuski against Gerson. Who you got there, Mike?
oh man, I like Yanni because I think he's a little bit more steady. Gerson, while I love the guy, he's super fun to root for. Good dude, always smiling, but his style of play, I think, lends itself to get exposed out here. The way that he hits the ball, his mechanics, it's just, if you watch him, you know what I'm talking about. Yanni is a super steady player. I like him to win in that matchup. And then down below, you got guys with a lot to prove.
Yeah. So obviously David Alcady and BJ Ussery. BJ had an opportunity against Albin Ocean on the TV table to do some damage there and solidify kind of consideration for Moscone Cup. Loses that match, I think 9-3. But then in true BJ fashion, goes over to the other side, grinds it out, gets back to the final 64. And I really think that's one of the reasons that he is in consideration for Moscone Cup, because he is just a grinder. But he's got his hands full right now with David. Uh, I like David in this one. I think he's at least 3-game favorite or so. And I also like David coming out of the bottom here.
Yeah, three might be a little steep, but David's the favorite. David rightfully should be the favorite. David is super steady once and this is what I talked with him about yesterday. It's like once he gets in line, he stays in line. I think he's got experience breaking the balls very well out here. I think he can adjust if things kind of fall off. He's been through these kind of battles before, but BJ's got a lot to prove, and this is your chance. If you beat David, you're going to be at least at a minimum even money on the next round matchup, and then you can really just say, "Hey, look, I belong here. I should be playing for Team USA, and here's your chance. This is where you got an opportunity."
Absolutely. In this next grouping, matchup of two European stalwarts, Niels Fayen and Mario He. Niels is playing great. Mario is gutting it out, and they're facing off here in the final 64. I'm going to go with Niels. Niels just seems like in the last
Mm.
year, maybe 18 months, he's dug deep, and he doesn't want his career to be over. He doesn't want to be an afterthought. He wants to solidify his position still in the top of the European rankings, and he's playing very well. So I'm going to go with Niels here.
Give me my boy Panda. I think it's about as tough a matchup as you can ask for in the round of 64. I think it's going to be an absolute dogfight. Both players want it. Both players have a lot to prove. Both players are easy guys to root for. Both play the game very, very well. They got a lot of history playing one another, very familiar with each other's games. But I'm going to take Mario. It's a pick though for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Oliver in the next one against Pius Labutis. Two good young European players. I think the Hungarian and the Lithuanian. I Oliver had a big win. Who did he beat, Mike? We were talking about.
I think he beat Chris Melling.
Yeah, Chris Melling. I think you and Penozo might have picked Melling in that match, but Oliver got there, and I'm going to go with Oliver to keep his run going at least for one more match. Moving on down, I got Yap over Wojciech. Uh, tough matchup. This is another one, right? It's filled.
Yep.
This bracket is filled with matchups that you're like, man, why'd that guy have to drop in against me? Because Wojciech
Yep.
is a world champion. He's a great player in his own right. But I really like what I'm seeing out of Yap. Did well in Michigan. He's here now, playing well. Won his first three matches. I'm going to go with Yap to win this one, and then to knock off Vitali in the next match. So I got Vitali over Marco Tucher. Marco obviously beat Shane Van Boning. So and you're saying that you picked that. I don't know where that happened because we
I
never
said
actually heard that.
y'all were breezing by, and I said you better hold on because Marco's going to put up a great fight against Shane, and y'all were like, yeah, whatever. Go back and rewind the tape, son. Go back
Yeah,
and rewind the
who do
tape.
you got in that group of four?
It's a pick between Wojciech and Aloysius. And the one thing that I look through all these matchups is that it's a good thing they're starting early because they may hold up the whole event. These guys are not fast players at all. So
Well, they're
yeah,
down to the shot clock now. Final 64, right?
no,
We're gonna have
no.
no.
It's not. So
Wait, when
maybe on the TV table,
I
but no,
thought
there's not. There's
I
there's there's
thought
no there's no way to police 32 tables. There's no way to police it. So on the shot clock.
oh.
Marco should beat Vitali. Vitali is lucky to be here because he survived a big deficit coming back from 7-0 in his matchup last night. Could he carry that momentum through? Maybe, but Marco's riding a high after beating Shane at the U.S. Open. So give me Marco in that matchup. Give me Wojciech to come through against Yap. I think it's going to be a tough matchup between those two, but two guys who know each other very, very, very well. So, but I'm going to pick Mario to come through this entire group of eight, and I think Mario should come through anyway.
Yeah, well, either way, it's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to catching the action today. And Mike, I need you out there getting post match interviews, talking to all these people, finding the controversies when they. I don't want to hear online about some controversy when you're right there. You need to get the story.
I had to drop off Collins yesterday. That's the reason why I dogged that Jeff DeLuna drama. But listen, matches are already starting. I got to get out of here. You guys have a good one. I'm gonna be posting updates on Windows Open. Keep your notifications on, and we'll see you guys real soon.